want these people. They order your products, sign up for your services, enroll in your classes, read your opinions, and watch your videos. You'll never see them, but they know you through your website. Or maybe not. Your website's visitors aren't a faceless mass of identical mouse clickers, but a vibrant community of individuals with varying tastes, styles, and abilities. To be successful in designing your site, you have to think about how those individuals access your information. We'll show you how to design websites that are usable by individuals employing a wide variety of technologies. This includes people with disabilities.
Well, it's important for web designers and developers to realize that what they see currently on their computer, at their resolution, with their browser and their operating system is not going to be necessarily the same thing that everybody else sees.
There's no normal or standard way to describe all the individuals who make up our society. And there's no single profile of people who use the internet. Almost everyone uses it, and they use it all the time.
It's just to participate in society. More of what we're doing is online. You know, the way that we're interacting with people, the way that we're buying our groceries, the way that we're working, learning, paying our taxes. You know, it's all very important stuff. Hey, look at this.
Not everyone will access your site using a keyboard, a mouse, and a monitor. Some people will be using cell phones or touchscreens. Others may access the web using refreshable braille devices or computer-generated speech for output.
But you don't change the structure of the brain.
For example,
Some users might interact using speech recognition or other assistive technology for input. They may navigate by keyboard alone because they're unable to use a mouse.
Nobody wants to make a barrier to their web page. However, it's very easy to do so without knowing everything that you might need to know about accessibility and what are the things that affect the ability of somebody to visit a web page.
Some of those potential barriers affect people with disabilities. They may not be able to see graphics because of visual impairments, or hear audio due to hearing impairments. They may be physically unable to use a mouse. They may have learning disabilities that make it difficult to navigate a cluttered web page. And you don't want them to give up on your site.
It makes sense that you would want as many customers as possible to get through your doors, whether they're physical doors on the street or virtual doors on the web.
It's just intelligent thinking about your design and just making sure that you've considered factors. When you design a car, you've got to think about all the different places it's going to go and all the needs people will have with that car. It's the same thing with a website.
Universal design is key to building web content that's accessible and usable for diverse visitors.
Well, to me, universal design means addressing the needs of the widest possible audience with all of their abilities that you can possibly do given the technology at hand. It's an approach that really benefits lots and lots of people.
It has a semantic base, it has a good framework that can be flexible and that people can take from it what they need and they can change it into something that's going to work for them. So it's just a well-designed site.
If you can design a website, you can design an accessible one.
The neat thing about web accessibility is that everything you might want to learn about it is available online with some key searches and some resources that are out there, as detailed as you want to get.
The most important thing to keep in mind in developing a website is to comply with standards. So be aware of what the standards are and develop websites that that comply with those standards.
The World Wide Web Consortium, known as W3C, has developed and published the Web Content Accessibility Guidelines, or WCAG. WCAG version 2 states that accessible pages must be perceivable, operable, understandable, and robust. Perceivable means that a person can access the information.
The point of that is how you're making the information available to the person's senses. So if someone is not able to see, what information are they missing? Well, they won't be able to see color, they won't be able to see images, those types of things. So you need to provide equivalents. You need to provide text that the screen reader can use to make that information perceivable.
Using good semantic HTML is key to making information accessible to someone using a screen reader.
If you're someone who's using a screen reader and you come to a form where there's a checkbox. It won't be identified as a checkbox unless you put some code in there that says this is a checkbox. So for the person who's using the page visually, it will look and it will act like a checkbox. But for someone who can't see that and get that information, then you need to provide in the underlying code something that the screen reader can use to indicate that that's a checkbox.
Images on a page need to have text associated with them.
In this case, this is an image that, even I who can see have no idea what it means, so the alt attribute is actually helpful for me. The text equivalent for this image is microorganisms from a Lake Washington mud sample.
And some of them have disabilities.
For users with hearing impairments, the perceivable principle requires captioning video and transcribing audio elements.
When I'm going into a website, it'll go right past me if it happens like there's music or talking and there's no captioning there. I just get lost, and then I'll have to ask my friend, would you tell me what that says? And then I really feel lost.
If somebody can't hear that content, they're not going to have access to it. So for video, we need captions. For audio, we need transcripts. And that also helps other people too, who may be on a slow modem connection and don't have the bandwidth to support viewing a video or even listening to an audio podcast.
Another benefit of captioning or transcribing is that it makes your multimedia content fully searchable using a text-based search, and that benefits everybody. Operable means being able to interact with the information.
But if somebody can't use a mouse or is using a technology that is not mouse-based, maybe they're using speech recognition, maybe they're using a handheld device with a stylus, or lots of assistive technologies, eye gaze technologies, head pointers, mouth sticks, any number of different technologies. They still need to be able to operate the buttons, click on the links, make the menus appear.
So tab moves the cursor from link to link.
Design your site to be operable with keyboard commands as an option for people who don't use a mouse.
And unfortunately, many websites are designed so that you have to use a mouse and to click on a button or to, slide your mouse different ways to access a website. This is the College of Engineering website at the University of Washington. It's been designed using a standard-based approach and has incorporated accessibility features in it. There's a navigation bar across the middle of the page that includes About Us, Departments, Faculty and Research, Give to Engineering, and some other options. Using the mouse, when I mouse over these, a menu pops up. And under About Us, we have several options within that menu. What I want to show now is that I'm not going to use the mouse, but I still want to try to get to those menu items. And if I use the Shift-Tab key, I'll go back to Departments, and if I hit Shift-Tab again, I go to About Us. The menu hasn't popped up, but if I press Return, I go to a new web page, and here are those options that had been on the previous page. So I can access all of the menus using the keyboard only, which is important.
Understandable means that the information is presented in a predictable way that makes sense to users.
Understandable is making sure the content is understandable both to the technology and to the people, but one of the main things you can do there is to mark what human language is used on the website. If it's a site that's written in English, you can mark it as English. If it's in French, it's French. And it becomes really important if it's a site that goes back and forth. If you may have some English interspersed with some French, like the United Nations website.
You have to figure out what task a person is trying to do when they come to your website. And then you try to design the page to make it easy for them to easily, effectively, properly do the task correctly the first time.
I think everybody would like a simple web page. It's a lot less complicated and a lot less cluttered. It just looks a lot better.
Robust means that these principles will continue to apply as new technology is developed.
Robust is that the website and the technologies used in the website are going to work well with assistive technologies. And it's also looking forward to when new browsers and new devices come out, that it'll continue to work.
I got a laptop when I was a senior in high school, and I used that for everything. And then about a year and a half ago, I got the iPhone, and pretty much 90% of what I do is on my phone now.
Another W3C standard is Aria, Accessible rich Internet applications. Aria provides methods for ensuring that dynamic web applications are accessible to individuals with disabilities.
So the challenge now with more interactive web content is you have things changing, so it's not just a static page. You perform some action as a user, and that triggers content changes elsewhere on the page. So things become a lot more complex. A key to making all this happen is standards and guidelines.
Adopting standards such as the W3C's Web Content Accessibility Guidelines and Aria is critical for accessibility. Another source is the United States Access Board's Section 508 standards. Section 508 of the Rehabilitation Act is a law requiring federal agencies to ensure that their information technology, including websites, is accessible. Key steps to accessible website design include: design standards-based websites using HTML for content and structure and CSS for presentation. Clearly mark up the structure of your site using HTML elements such as headings, subheadings, lists, and paragraphs. Provide alternate text for all images. Design all content so that it's operable by keyboard. Provide transcripts of audio and captions for video. Write as clearly and simply as possible. Comply with web accessibility standards such as the W3C's Web Content Accessibility Guidelines and Aria. Test your site with accessibility in mind, and if possible, ask individuals with disabilities to test your site.
The way that I like to test things is I inspect the website and I look for the things that need to be there. So, do images have an alt attribute? And if they do, does it make sense? You can turn off style sheets and you can look at how the page looks without the style sheets. What's the actual structure, the framework of that content?
You want as many people as possible to access your information. If your website is designed well, everyone who visits it will be able to do that successfully.
The web is flexible, that's the beauty of it, and that it can transform, that someone can increase the font size and someone else can change the color, is really the beauty of using all these bits and using digital media, is that it is flexible. And that's exactly what makes it accessible, and that's what makes it work on mobile devices and over the phone and however else you want to access it.
For more information, contact DoIT. On the World Wide Web, all in lowercase with no spaces, www.washington.edu/DOIT. Phone, voice or TTY, 206-685-DOIT. Address, DoIT. University of Washington, Box 354842, Seattle, Washington, 98195-4842. Director Cheryl Bergstaller. This video is based upon work supported by the National Science Foundation under grant number CNS 0540615. Any opinions, findings, and conclusions or recommendations expressed in this video do not necessarily reflect the views of the National Science Foundation. Copyright 2009, University of Washington. This should be a great time in your life. Those wonderful student years when you're old enough to make choices and too young to take total responsibility. You're really getting out on your own, but sometimes you need a little help on the road to independence.
I didn't feel like I was going to succeed as well, and my expectations of myself weren't anywhere near as high.
Going through high school, there was always that question of whether or not I was going to be able to go on to college and succeed. And now that I'm in education, the question still is, what is it going to be like? What are the challenges I'm going to face?
Kids with disabilities often have expectations that are just much lower than they need to be. And in Do It, we try to change that.
I want the Do It logo front and center, up top. And then
DO IT stands for Disabilities, Opportunities, Internetworking, and Technology. It's a University of Washington program designed to help students with disabilities become successful in both college and careers. Technology is key.
what was that?
The first year I come here, I had never had experience working on the internet, and I really like the internet, especially email, and so that's what it really got me going with email. And now if somebody were to take my email away from me, I would kill them probably.
Okay, that's a little extreme. But technology does open a wide range of career opportunities and personal connections.
Well, and in these days, I mean, like a place like Microsoft, the people that work here, I'm on a completely equal footing with any of those people because the things that you're doing here are purely creations of your mind.
Greg Smith is a software design engineer at Microsoft. He's also a mentor for DO IT Scholars, one of many successful business people who volunteer support, advice, and friendship to students with disabilities.
It's making sure that someone isn't isolated in their thoughts, because that's something that a high school kid has to deal with anyway, that they feel alone or isolated, or that something difficult that they're going through is unique to them, and that there isn't any help out there.
Hi, Sandra. Morning.
Many of DO IT's mentors know exactly what kids are going through because they've been there.
I've been through this thing. I had the stroke and so on. And I find it incredibly gratifying to be able to share that with somebody and to be able to help someone else who's going through some of the same things.
Roger Harris is a professor in the University of Washington's medical school. His approach to mentoring is to seek out a few students with similar disabilities to his, or with interests in medicine. He takes a personal interest in each protege.
She's in college now, and she was very interested in doing something like nursing or PA or something like that, and we went round and round for quite a while trying to help her to decide what things she wanted to do, and I kept getting information on these different programs and sending it to her, and then that was just great. I loved doing that, and I'm still waiting to find out where she actually ends up.
So today we're going to use solar ovens to cook hot dogs.
As a graduate student, teaching assistant, and mentor, Imka Dura has first-hand knowledge of the college experience. Her discussion groups during DO IT's summer program cover a wide range of students' concerns.
I use what's called a Perkins Braille.
I have initiated discussions about, living on your own, going grocery shopping, planning for college, adaptive technology, just a range of issues.
Mentors can calm fears about independent living. When Kevin Berg started at Seattle Pacific University, his mother was sure he'd never be able to live on campus, that he'd be home in 2 weeks. But with a friendly roommate and a few accommodations, it worked out just fine.
Anything that he needed, they were more than willing to accommodate.
No.
Kevin had 4 successful years on campus, and today he has his own website design business. And although he often lets his father translate for him in face-to-face discussion groups, on the internet he needs no interpreter.
It really helped the kids and me.
Email is a major part of DO IT's mentoring program. Distance and disability don't matter on the internet.
Because we're equal.
DO IT encourages mentors and proteges to communicate one-on-one online. Electronic lists of those with similar disabilities or interests facilitate group discussions and projects. All this is done electronically without concern for limits of time, location, or disability.
I can communicate with people who have speech impairment, so in some ways the internet is even better than person-to-person mentoring.
Sometimes students live in isolated areas or across the country from a mentor.
Email is a great tool And I think it's a great way for the mentors and the students to keep in touch during the school year when we might be thousands of miles apart.
And even just across town, email eliminates accessibility problems. Ed has been a mentor to Bridget McCarthy, who also has a profound hearing loss.
Since I can't use a telephone, email is about a part of my life, and Ed and I would email every once in a while to find out how the other person was doing, and he always seemed very concerned about how I was doing, and that made me feel like I had someone who cared about me and really wanted to see me do well.
Bridget is doing very well. A former Do-It scholar, she's in college now and considering a career in audiology. Volunteering at a pediatric clinic gives her some practical knowledge and some encouragement.
I try to tell the Do-It kids to listen to their hearts and think about what they really want to do.
Okay.
Don't listen to people saying, no, you can't do this or that, or you should be thinking only about this kind of work. Just think about what you really want to do, what really turns you on, and go for it.
Before she met Ed, Bridget had never known an adult with a hearing impairment. She had no role models, and she sometimes wondered what her life would be like.
But when I met him, I was so surprised how he had such a normal life, and he had a family, and he worked with people that had normal hearing, and so that made me feel a lot better about my future.
There's a parking brake right here. A parking brake?
I have to see a picture.
Okay, there's a parking brake.
By example, Ed helped Bridget learn how to interact with others.
He taught me that even though I have a hearing impairment, I should always stick up for myself, and I should, if I don't understand something, to ask people to clarify it for me, because I've always had a problem with doing that, because I don't want to be embarrassed in front of other people.
And now, Bridget will mentor other Do-It scholars. Once students move on to college, they share their experiences with younger participants.
So print it out.
Well, clearly we want to be able to provide them with a couple of different options, and I'm seeing a couple of options that are already in there that I think could work.
After college, there's another challenge on the road to success. Getting that first job is crucial.
I think a mentor in the field that the student is interested in can be invaluable in terms of having sort of an ear to the ground about what the job opportunities are like.
Karen Breitmeyer is a Seattle architect. With today's technology, she hopes to see more people with disabilities enter the field.
There aren't very many people with disabilities in my profession. I think there's room for more. And it used to be that you had to be able to work on huge drawings and do very fine motor skill kinds of things. Well, now all the ideas that are up here can come out through the computer much more easily.
Okay, this is what we've been waiting for this evening, so please help me welcome the trench coats.
All right now.
Mentoring has its social moments as well.
I can see green now, the rain is gone. Yeah, it is. I can see all obstacles in my way. Gone are the dark clouds that hem the line. It's gonna be a bright, sunshiny day. Bop, bop, bop. It's gonna be bright.
Despite the benefits of fiber optics, person-to-person contact is still an important part of bonding.
And all of my bad feelings have disappeared. Now that they're gone on, here comes that rainbow I've been praying for.
There's nothing like really getting everybody in the same place and talking to someone so that you can put a face with the email name next time you see them online.
It's gonna be a bright, sunshiny day. Bop, bop, bop. Woo!
For students, it's inspiring to meet someone who's working in their field of interest.
What it boils down to is that in a lot of cases, getting the career you want, the prerequisite to that is thinking that you might be able to do it. And so just having someone that might be in a position that you think you want to be in allows you to consider that possibility.
And what's in it for the mentors? New energy and ideas, for one thing.
The excitement, enthusiasm, and sort of fresh ideas that a student can bring to the table. I think those things can be very refreshing to people who've been in the workplace sort of doing the same sort of thing over and over for a while. Working with students in that way is very invigorating. I find it very exciting.
Mentors themselves can network and grow.
I've grown up pretty much in town and within the healing world, and I know a lot about hearing loss. But in the Do It program, there are people with so many other different kinds of disabilities, many more than I knew ever existed. And so for me, the mentoring opportunity is also a learning opportunity for me as well.
And it's a chance to pass on some hard-earned experience.
I think that's why I'm a mentor, because it gives me an opportunity to put my experience to good use and to help out other people and get them through things that were hard for me once and that now I know how to do.
Do It received national recognition with the Presidential Award for Excellence in Mentoring. At the White House, Director Sheryl Burgstahler accepted the award for embodying excellence in mentoring underrepresented students and encouraging their significant achievement in science, mathematics, and engineering. Do It also received the National Information Infrastructure Award for exceptional use of the Internet to support young people.
In Do It, students from cities and rural communities, from rich and poor families, from a variety of ethnic backgrounds, and with disabilities that affect their vision, hearing, mobility, health, and learning, come together in an electronic community and experience life on a level playing field. Today, the Do It Project, which is primarily funded by the National Science Foundation, is honored to receive an award for its creative use of the national information infrastructure. We look forward to the day when stories like ours are no longer exceptional, but commonplace. Thank you.
For more information, contact Do It. On the World Wide Web, www.washington.edu/DOIT. Phone, voice, or TTY, area code 206-685-DOIT. Address, Do It, University of Washington, Box 355670, Seattle, Washington, 98195-5670. Director Sheryl Burgstahler. The creation of this videotape was made possible by a grant from the National Science Foundation. The University of Washington also contributed resources to this project. Copyright 1998, University of Washington.